Black woman is unjustly accused of robbery. Then something shocking happened. At 38 years old, Lauren Thompson was a vibrant woman of African descent whose captivating smile and infectious energy brightened any room she entered. Living in Charlotte, North Carolina, Lauren enjoyed a fulfilling family life with her husband, Michael, a respected civil engineer, and their two children, 8-year-old Zoe and 6-year-old Lucas. Lauren, a successful lawyer at a renowned firm, was admired for her competence and ethics. However, on a sunny Saturday morning, far removed from courtrooms and laws, Lauren's focus was on a significant personal event. It was her 10th wedding anniversary, and she was eager to celebrate this milestone with Michael in a special way. But the day took a shocking turn when Lauren found herself unjustly accused of robbery at a jewelry store, setting off a chain of events that would test her resolve and strength. Lauren smiled at herself in the mirror as she got ready for the special day she had planned for weeks. The reflection showed a confident woman with eyes sparkling with anticipation. She adjusted the pearl necklace that Michael had gifted her on their last anniversary, each pearl symbolizing a year of love and shared memories. "I'm so excited for today," Lauren murmured to herself, adjusting the necklace one final time. She then picked up her phone and texted Michael, who was in the garden playing with the children. "Can't wait for our surprise this afternoon," she typed with a smile. After a relaxed family breakfast filled with laughter and shared stories, they went to the park for a brief moment of leisure. The children ran and played under the bright sun, their laughter echoing in the air. Lauren and Michael watched with tender gazes, enjoying the simple happiness of being together. For Lauren, those moments were precious, embodying the true meaning of family. Upon returning home, Lauren took her time getting ready. She chose an elegant dress made of light fabric that caressed her skin and her favorite shoes that made her feel powerful and graceful. Every detail was carefully thought out for the special day she had planned. When she was finally ready, she took a deep breath, feeling excitement bubbling in her chest. Arriving at the renowned jewelry store downtown, Lauren was greeted with a warm smile by the familiar staff. She was a regular customer there, known for her good taste and ability to choose charming gifts. The store, with its bright displays and cozy atmosphere, always made her feel at home. The jewelers knew her well and appreciated her visits, as Lauren brought with her an aura of positivity and sophistication. "Good morning, Lauren. It's a pleasure to see you again," greeted the head jeweler as Lauren entered the store. "Good morning. I'm so excited to pick out something special today," she replied, her voice full of enthusiasm. "I'm thinking of something simple yet meaningful," Lauren said, smiling as she looked at the initial designs. "Michael loves delicate details," she explained, discussing design options with excitement. Each piece of jewelry she chose for Michael was a reflection of the deep love and understanding they shared. "I'm sure we'll create something he'll love," the jeweler replied with a friendly smile. "You always pick the best pieces for him." As Lauren continued her animated conversation about the necklace, she felt a strange tension in the air. In the back of the store, she saw one of the employees speaking quickly on the phone with a worried expression on their face. The friendly and welcoming atmosphere she always associated with the jewelry store seemed slightly altered, as if an invisible cloud had appeared out of nowhere. Lauren tried to focus on choosing the necklace, but the unease of the employee began to disturb her peace. Occasionally, her gaze turned towards the figure at the back of the store, wondering what could be happening. Though she attempted to push away the negative thoughts, a small inner voice whispered that something was amiss. Even on a day meant for joy and celebration, the reality of the outside world seemed to seep in, bringing with it a discomfort that Lauren couldn't ignore. Lauren watched curiously as the jewelry store employee continued their conversation on the phone, appearing increasingly agitated. She shook her head slightly, trying to dismiss the growing concern. "It must be just a routine issue," she thought to herself, wanting to keep the mood light and festive for the special occasion. "So, about the necklace," Lauren tried to steer the conversation back to the jeweler but was interrupted when the store manager approached with a serious expression. "Sorry to interrupt, Mrs. Thompson," the manager began with a tense voice, "but we need to check something with you." He glanced around nervously before continuing. "There's been an incident involving an item from our store, and unfortunately, it seems you were in the area at the time." Lauren frowned, feeling a knot form in her stomach. An incident? What's going on? She asked, trying to remain calm. The manager briefly explained that a valuable item had gone missing, and coincidentally, Lauren was the only customer in that part of the store. "We need to check if you're in possession of that item," he said, his voice carrying implications. Lauren looked around, feeling the curious stares from other customers and store employees. "This is a misunderstanding," she tried to explain, her voice starting to grow tense. "I haven't taken anything that isn't mine." The jeweler, who had been so friendly moments ago, seemed uncomfortable with the situation. "Lauren, we understand, but we need to check as a precaution," he said, attempting to calm things down. "Check what?" "I've been here discussing a gift for my husband," Lauren exclaimed, her frustration beginning to show. As the manager continued to press, Lauren felt a mix of anger and indignation. She had never felt so unfairly treated in her own city, in a place where she had been a respected customer for years. "Let's resolve this as quickly as possible," the manager said, trying to appease the situation. "We'll review the security footage and sort this out." Lauren took a deep breath, trying to calm herself as she followed the manager to the store's security area. She couldn't believe something like this was happening, just when she had planned such a special moment for her family. Lauren followed the manager to the jewelry store's security area, her heart pounding with a mix of anxiety and indignation. As they walked through corridors adorned with shimmering jewels, she felt the curious stares of other customers and store employees, which only heightened her sense of embarrassment. Arriving at the security room, Lauren was greeted by a stern security guard who nodded to the manager before starting to review the security camera footage. "Let's check this quickly and sort everything out," the manager said, trying to maintain a conciliatory tone. As they waited, Lauren tried to keep her composure, but her mind was in turmoil. She couldn't believe she was being treated like this, simply for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Finally, the security guard found the moment when the item disappeared from the shelf. Lauren watched with wide eyes as they viewed the recording of the area where she had been talking to the jeweler. To her relief, the footage clearly showed that she hadn't touched the missing item. "You see? I told you I didn't do anything," Lauren exclaimed, relief mixed with indignation in her voice. The manager looked embarrassed. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Thompson," he began. "It seems we've made a terrible mistake." Lauren took a deep breath, trying to calm her nerves as the reality of what had just happened began to sink in. "This was more than a mistake," she replied, her voice firm. "This was a serious accusation based on nothing but prejudice." The manager lowered his eyes, unable to respond. He knew they had made a serious mistake and that the consequences could be significant. "I want to speak with my lawyer," Lauren said firmly. "This can't just be left like this." As they made their way back to the main area of the store, Lauren felt a mix of anger and determination. She not only wanted justice for herself, but also wanted to ensure that no one else went through what she had just experienced. Upon reaching the front of the store, she saw Michael and the kids waiting for her with radiant smiles. But Lauren's smile was now tense, laden with the weight of what had just transpired and the resolve to face what lay ahead. Lauren approached Michael and the children, trying to maintain a calm demeanor despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. Michael immediately noticed the worried expression on her face. "Lauren, what happened? Are you okay?" Michael asked, concerned. Lauren took a deep breath before responding, choosing her words carefully to shield the children from what was happening. "Michael, there was a misunderstanding at the jewelry store," she began, her voice calm yet firm. "They accused me of something I didn't do." Michael furrowed his brow, confused and worried. "What do you mean?" he asked, looking at her urgently. Lauren briefly explained the situation as they walked together to the car. "They thought I stole something from the store, but the security cameras proved I didn't do anything," she said, her tone still shaken by the experience. Michael squeezed her hand tightly, his face showing indignation. "That's unbelievable. How could they do this to you?" Lauren sighed, feeling a mix of relief for being proven innocent, but also deep frustration at how she had been treated. "It's something I never expected to face, especially in a place where I've been a customer for so long," she admitted, feeling her anger begin to turn into determination. "They need to be held accountable," Michael said firmly. "We can't let this slide." As they drove back home, Lauren felt an urgency to take action. She knew she needed to proceed with legal measures to ensure the jewelry store was held responsible for what had happened. But she also knew it wasn't just about herself. It was a matter of principle and justice. Arriving home, Lauren picked up her phone and called her trusted lawyer. "Claire, we need to talk," she began, her voice firm and determined. "I was a victim of racial discrimination today, and I'm not going to let it go unpunished." Michael and the children gathered around her, expressing their concern and support as Lauren began to outline her path to seek justice. As Lauren discussed details with her lawyer over the phone, Michael and the children stood by, worried and supportive. Lucas, the youngest, looked at his mother with eyes full of concern. "Mommy, why did they think you did something wrong?" he asked, his voice tinged with confusion. Lauren crouched down to his eye level, trying to smile despite the tense situation. "Sometimes people make wrong judgments, sweetheart," she explained gently. "But the important thing is that we did what's right and proved I didn't do anything wrong." Zoe, her elder daughter, squeezed Lauren's hand affectionately. "Mom, I'm proud of how you handled this," she said sincerely. "You're really strong." Michael looked at his wife with a mix of admiration and restrained anger. "Lauren, what do you want to do now?" he asked, his voice showing determination. Lauren took a deep breath, her gaze turning to Claire as the lawyer continued to discuss the legal plan. "We're going to proceed with legal action against the jewelry store," she told Michael, her voice firm. "They can't just treat us like this and get away with it." After ending the call, Lauren stood up and looked at her family with renewed determination. "We're going to fight for justice," she said, her voice echoing with a newfound resolve. "Not just for me, but for everyone who has been unfairly treated because of their skin color." Michael nodded solemnly. "We're with you, Lauren," he said, squeezing her hand firmly. "Let's make sure this never happens to anyone else." As the night progressed, Lauren began mentally preparing herself for the challenges ahead. She knew the battle for justice would be long and tough, but she also knew she had unwavering support from her family and the law on her side. Before going to sleep that night, Lauren glanced at the pearl necklace Michael had given her years ago. It was a reminder of their love and her strength, an anchor that helped her stay strong in the face of adversity. Deep down, she knew this fight was about much more than a necklace or a jewelry store. It was about dignity, equality, and the right to be treated with respect. As she drifted off to sleep, Lauren knew the dawn would bring new challenges, but also new opportunities to make a difference. The next day, Lauren and her family were startled by the arrival of two uniformed police officers at their door. Michael looked out the living room window and saw the officers approaching, his heart racing. "Lauren, there are police officers here," Michael said tensely, turning to her with evident concern. Lauren quickly rose from the couch, her heart sinking at the prospect of further complications. She took a deep breath to compose herself and walked to the door, Michael and the children following closely behind. "Good afternoon, ma'am," one of the officers said, his tone formal yet courteous. "We need you to come with us to the station to discuss a recent incident at the jewelry store." Lauren looked at Michael, wide-eyed, trying to process how quickly things were unfolding. "What's happening now?" she murmured, more to herself than anyone else. Michael placed a reassuring hand firmly on Lauren's shoulder. "Let's handle this as best as we can," he said, trying to convey comfort and support. Lauren nodded, knowing she needed to cooperate to clear up the situation once and for all. "All right, I'll go with you," she told the officers, her voice calm yet resolute. As they walked to the parked squad car outside, Lauren felt the curious gazes of the neighbors, a mix of compassion and speculation. She forced herself to keep her head held high, refusing to shrink in the face of adversity. At the station, Lauren was led to an interrogation room while Michael and the children anxiously waited in the lobby. Seated at the table, Lauren looked at the officers with a blend of resignation and determination. "I've already given my statement on this," she began, her voice firm. "I didn't do anything wrong." The officers nodded, their expressions professional yet attentive. "We understand, ma'am," one of them said, reviewing the case file. "We're just following procedures to review all aspects of the incident." Lauren reiterated her version of events, detailing her visit to the jewelry store and the subsequent unfounded accusation. She felt the tension in the air as the officers took notes and consulted records. After a tense wait, the officers returned with a more serious demeanor. "Mrs. Thompson, we've reviewed the evidence and concluded there's no basis for the accusations against you," one of the officers said, his voice formal yet relieved. "You're free to go." Lauren felt a weight lift off her shoulders as she stood up from the table. She looked at the officers with gratitude mixed with indignation. "Thank you for handling this correctly," she said sincerely, her voice trembling slightly with emotion. Back in the waiting area, Michael and the children rushed to embrace her, visible relief on their faces. "Mom, are you okay?" Lucas asked, his eyes brimming with tears. Lauren hugged her children tightly, feeling a wave of emotion overflow. "I'm okay, sweetheart," she said with a choked voice. "We're all okay." As they left the police station and headed home, Lauren knew the battle was far from over. But she also knew she had her family by her side and the determination to see justice prevail. Back in the comfort of her home, Lauren convened with Michael and their lawyer, Claire, to discuss the next legal steps. Seated around the living room table, the atmosphere was charged with determination and an unwavering desire for justice. "Claire, the incident at the jewelry store was clearly a case of racial discrimination," Claire began, her tone serious. "We have a solid basis for a lawsuit against them." Michael nodded firmly, his eyes showing determination. "They can't get away with what they did to you," he said, looking at Lauren with warmth and support. Lauren took a deep breath, feeling a mix of gratitude for her family and renewed determination to confront the jewelry store. "I want to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else," she said firmly. "We need to move forward with this." Claire nodded, jotting down notes as they discussed the details of the case. "Let's start by gathering all the evidence we have," she suggested, outlining the planned actions. "This includes witness testimonies, police reports, and all relevant communications." As they strategized legally, Lauren felt a surge of emotions. She was grateful to have such a strong support team by her side, but she also felt a growing determination to use her experience to effect positive change. "Claire, do you think we can get a public apology from the jewelry store?" Lauren asked, her voice tinged with hope. Claire smiled encouragingly. "Based on the evidence we have, I believe we can pressure them to do that," she replied. "And not only that, we'll seek appropriate compensation for the embarrassment and emotional distress you've endured." Michael squeezed Lauren's hand affectionately. "We're with you every step of the way," he said sincerely. "Let's make sure justice is served." Lauren glanced at her children playing on the living room rug, feeling a knot loosen in her chest. She knew the legal battle would be challenging, but she also knew she was fighting for something bigger than just her own case. As the sun set outside, Lauren felt a sense of determination solidify within her. She was ready to face whatever came next, knowing her family and legal team were behind her. In the days following the jewelry store incident, Lauren and her legal team worked tirelessly to gather all the necessary evidence for the lawsuit. Claire kept in constant contact, updating Lauren and Michael on developments and preparing them for what lay ahead. On a sunny afternoon, Claire paid a visit to Lauren's home to discuss the final details before filing the formal lawsuit. Seated in the living room, Lauren and Michael listened attentively as Claire explained the last steps. "We have all the statements from those involved in the store, copies of the security camera footage, and the police reports," Claire said, passing the documents for Lauren to review. Lauren studied the papers seriously, her mind already considering the impact the case could have beyond her own experience. "Claire, what do you think we can expect from their side?" she asked, her voice filled with concern and anticipation. Claire adjusted her glasses and crossed her legs, thoughtful. "They'll likely try to downplay the incident, but we have clear evidence of the discriminatory treatment you faced," she replied confidently. "Our goal is not only to secure fair compensation, but also to ensure the jewelry store is publicly held accountable for what they did." Michael nodded, his jaw tight. "What if they try to settle this outside of court?" he asked, concerned about the possibility of a settlement that didn't include a public apology. Claire shook her head firmly. "We're prepared to go all the way if necessary, but we're also open to discussing a settlement that includes a public apology and fair compensation," she explained, her voice conveying determination. Lauren looked at her family gathered around her, feeling a wave of gratitude for their unwavering support. "We're going to do this," she said with conviction, "not just for ourselves, but for everyone who has faced something like this and didn't have a voice." As the sun set outside, they finalized the preparations for the trial, knowing that the next day would mark the beginning of a new phase in their quest for justice. Lauren felt a mix of nervousness and determination as she geared up for what would be one of the most significant challenges of her life. The day of judgment finally arrived. Lauren and Michael entered the courtroom hand in hand, followed by Claire carrying a stack of documents. The tension in the air was palpable as they took their seats in the plaintiff's bench, prepared to face the jewelry store that had unfairly accused them. The jewelry store's lawyer entered the room, accompanied by a legal team, and cast a penetrating look toward Lauren and her family. Lauren felt a shiver of determination run down her spine as she braced herself for what was to come. Claire stood up to present Lauren's case to the court, detailing the events that led to the false accusation at the jewelry store. She highlighted the irrefutable evidence, including security camera footage proving Lauren's innocence. During the cross-examination of witnesses, Claire exposed inconsistencies in the jewelry store employees' testimonies and highlighted the racial bias that permeated the incident. Lauren watched closely, feeling a mix of nervousness and growing confidence as the case unfolded before the jurors. At lunch break, Michael approached Lauren with an encouraging expression. "You're doing great, honey," he said softly, squeezing her hand firmly. "We're all proud of you." Lauren smiled weakly, grateful for Michael and the kids' unwavering support throughout the process. "I'm just anxious for this to be over," she admitted, her eyes reflecting the intensity of the moment. The trial continued into the afternoon, with the defense attempting to discredit Claire's presented evidence. However, each attempt was met with meticulous and well-founded responses from Lauren's team. At the end of the day, Claire concluded her final arguments, reaffirming the injustice Lauren had faced and appealing for a fair decision from the jurors. Lauren felt a wave of exhaustion and relief mixed with hope that the court would recognize the truth. As they exited the courtroom, Lauren looked back one last time, her mind swirling with the magnitude of what she had just endured. She knew the verdict was now in the jurors' hands, hoping that justice would prevail in the end. The days following the trial's conclusion were anguishing for Lauren and her family. The tension was palpable, like a heavy cloud hanging over their heads. Lauren could hardly sleep, replaying every moment of the trial in her mind, questioning if she had done enough, said the right words. Michael tried to be the pillar of strength, but his own anxiety showed in small gestures, a distant look, a deep sigh. Claire, their lawyer, stayed in constant contact, ensuring they were prepared for any outcome. But even she couldn't mask the uncertainty they all felt. Finally, after a long and excruciating wait, verdict day arrived. Lauren and Michael returned to the courthouse, their steps heavy but determined. Claire, always the figure of strength and resilience, stood by their side, her expression a mix of nerves and determination. She knew this day would mark not only Lauren's life, but also set an important precedent for many other cases of racial discrimination. In the courtroom, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. The walls, with their neutral tones, seemed to amplify the tension. The silent murmur of whispered conversations among those present created a symphony of anxiety. When the judge entered, everyone rose in respect, the sound of chairs echoing through the room like the final chord of a tragic symphony. The atmosphere was tense, all eyes fixed on the judge as he prepared to read the verdict. As to the case of racial discrimination against the jewelry store, the jury finds the defendant guilty, solemnly declared the judge, his voice resonating like a final gong that dissipated the cloud of uncertainty. Lauren felt a knot loosen in her chest as she absorbed the words. Emotion flooded over her, tears streaming freely down her face. Michael squeezed her hand tightly, his expression a mix of relief, gratitude, and pride. He understood how much this moment meant to her, to them, and to all who had silently suffered. Claire rose to thank the jury and the court for the fair decision. This verdict not only validates Lauren's experience, but also sends a clear message that racial discrimination will not be tolerated, she said, her voice firm and laden with meaning. There was a strength in her words that reverberated in the room, as if everyone present felt the weight and significance of that moment. Lauren felt tears of relief and emotion well up as she embraced Michael and their children. "We did it," she murmured, her voice choked with emotion. "We finally did it." They felt that a crucial battle had been won, a victory not just personal but collective, echoing in the lives of many others. They left the courtroom together, surrounded by the support and solidarity of friends and family who had followed the case from the beginning. Lauren felt a heavy weight lifted from her shoulders, knowing that her fight was not just for herself, but for all who had faced similar injustices. The path to this point had been tough and painful, but the support she had received throughout the process had strengthened their familial and community bonds. Back at home, Lauren looked at the pearl necklace Michael had given her years ago. It was a symbol of their love and strength, now even more significant after everything they had endured together. Each pearl seemed to shine with a new meaning, representing the resilience, love, and unity that kept them strong. As they prepared to begin rebuilding their lives, Lauren knew this experience had changed her forever. She had found her voice and used her strength to make a difference, something that no one could take away from her. The sun was setting on the horizon, painting the sky with vibrant colors that reflected renewed hope in their hearts. They celebrated not just the courtroom victory, but also the resilience they had discovered within themselves. Lauren, Michael, and their children were ready to move forward, knowing that together they could face whatever challenges the future might bring. The world outside still held uncertainties, but they knew that united, they were invincible.